Thank you, sir.
And you are streaming, sir.
We are now live on YouTube and other technologies. Welcome to the regular meeting of the governing body, January 27, 2021, 4:03 p.m. People are attending virtually. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Cassett Sanchez, salute to the New Mexico flag led by Councilor Lindell, and an invocation led by Councilor Romero Worth, after which we will have a moment for remembrances. Please rise as you are able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico. This is a symbol of perfect friendship amongst united cultures.
I'd like for us to take a moment, bow our heads for a moment of reflection. Let us consider what a privilege we have in representing this diverse and beautiful community. Let us reflect on our relationships with one another and our staff. Let us consider what we can do individually to be appreciative of each other and constructive in addressing the problems of our community. Let us pray for those who have lost friends and family to COVID-19 and who have been affected economically by the pandemic. Let us also resolve to honor our differences and be respectful in our proceedings.
Thank you. Councilor Villarreal, you have a remembrance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few and just wanted to take the time for this. I wanted to recognize the life and passing of Maria Rita Perea, who was taken from our community by the relentless and unforgiving effects of COVID. Rita Perea was the mother of my childhood friends, Richard and Bobby Perea. She was born in Vaughan, New Mexico, the youngest daughter of 7 children. She sang in the choir as a youth. She worked many years for the Department of Motor Vehicles. She loved to dance. She was a talented painter, an incredible cook of New Mexican food. And she lived a life of remarkable humility, faith, and prayer, and raised 2 great men who she wanted always for them to love each other. And I also wanted to recognize the life of Richard Dick Durer, who is the father of a friend of mine as well, who died from COVID. His death fell between the day he would have received the COVID vaccine and his 91st birthday. And Dick was known, although he didn't grow up here in Santa Fe, he moved here most recently to be closer to his daughter and with his wife. And he had a great talent for music and playing the piano and loved animals with a passion. So wanted to say rest in peace as well. And last, wanted to recognize the horrible death of Pete Gurale, who was killed in front of his home at the age of 40. He was a popular radio DJ, massage therapist, and father of 2. And so I wanted to say rest in peace and rest in power, Pete Gurale, and just for the families of the people I just recognized and their friends, I wanted to say this quote, that words seem so feeble in moments like these. Life is so precious and death such a thief. The depth of your pain we cannot comprehend, but we will stand by your side. Love is a bond that death cannot part, gone from your arms, but still in your heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Vihel-Coppler, your hand is up for a remembrance.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to offer condolences to the family of Oscar Arevalo. Oscar was the finance director for the New Mexico Supreme Court prior to retirement, and I worked with him for quite a few years when I was there, and we presented many budgets to the legislature on behalf of the Supreme Court and courts across New Mexico. He was just a wonderful guy, very smart. He was an avid cyclist and a runner and just an overall great athlete. He was a young man. Cancer came to him and he beat it for a while, for a good while. And then it came back in other parts of his body. And he died last Sunday. And he was, we had a wonderful working group. As you know, all of you, when you have a working group somewhere, you just all become very close. And I'm really saddened to hear of his passing. And I just want to offer condolences to his family and his coworkers at the Supreme Court that knew him very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Lindell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to send condolences out to Mike and Jenny Meyer. Mike served the committee or the city in many different capacities, most recently on the committee that Councilor Rivera chairs, the Public Safety Committee, the passing of their daughter. Mike's been a member of the city family for a very, very long time. I had the pleasure of serving with him on Planning Commission. And these kinds of passings are such a shock and so painful. And we would just like for them to know that our thoughts are with them. And it's a grievous time for all of us.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else with a remembrance at this time? Let's bow our heads, take a minute, remember those who have been mentioned and those who have not been mentioned, but who we've lost, who are suffering, who are dealing with COVID or other diseases that take them from us. We wish them well. Thank you, everybody. So, Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Absolutely. Mayor Weber,
Present.
Councilor Abeyta,
Here.
Councilor Cassett Sanchez,
Here.
Councilor Garcia,
Present.
Councilor Lindell,
Here.
Councilor Rivera,
He needs to be let in. It looks like he's raising his hand in the attendees room.
Oh, dear. Yes, he is. His hand is up over in the attendees room. My mistake. I was just counting all the other heads and I didn't account for Councilor Rivera. My bad. Joe, are you able to bring him in?
I just got back from the chambers. Yeah, let me do that.
Boy,
Or hold on. Disappeared.
he's in the attendee room with a blue hand up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. There you go. There you go. Okay, I got it. Sorry about that.
No worries. I'm here.
Counselor, my apologies. We have so many people on the screen and I was in error in not double checking. My apologies for not having you be present for the other parts of the getting started agenda.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, go right ahead then.
thank you, Mayor. Councilor Romero Worth,
Yes, I'm here.
Councilor Vigil Coppler,
Yes, here.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Present.
you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Can we, item number 6 on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilor Vigil Coppler has moved to approve the agenda and Councilor Lindell has seconded it. Could we call the roll, please, Madam Clerk?
Absolutely. Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coppler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Item has been approved.
thank you. The next item is the consent calendar. If you have something you would like to take from the consent calendar, could you raise your hand and I'll recognize you? Councilwoman Villarreal.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything to pull, just wanted to co-sponsor item 10A, the 30 by 30 campaign resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we will notice your co-sponsorship of 10A. Are there others who wish to speak to the consent calendar? If not, can we get a motion on the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilor Leo Coppler moved to approve the consent calendar and Councilwoman Villarreal has seconded that. Is there discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on that motion, please?
Absolutely. Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coppler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
and Mayor Weber.
Yes.
The consent calendar has been approved.
Okay, item 8, we have two sets of minutes. First is 8A, the special governing body meeting of January 4, 2021. Are there changes or amendments to the minutes of the January 4 special meeting? If not, can we get a motion to approve those minutes, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilwoman Vito Coppler has moved to approve those minutes and Councilor Lindell seconded the motion. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll on that motion, please?
Absolutely. Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coppler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
The minutes have been approved from the January 4th meeting.
And our next set of minutes is the regular governing body meeting of January 13, 2021. Are there, yes, Councilwoman Villarreal, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 25, there was 2 names of the public hearing that didn't get included. Melissa, her last name is Mascareñas. And Virgil, I think they got the wrong last name. It's Vigil, I believe.
It is.
And then if you go down to page, hold on a minute, page 31, in the section where it starts with paragraph with Councilor Villarreal thanked her colleagues. The only thing that I would add, there were some things that weren't exactly portrayed right, but I'll just change this piece. It says in the middle of that paragraph, she also recognized that the process is more than just monuments, but of people, and it should include, and to be honest, people in our community have felt invisibilized and through various periods of our recent history and present day. And There's some other things, but I'm just gonna, I think they caught the gist of it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
So we need to make those amendments to the minutes as recognized by Councilwoman Villarreal. Are there other changes to the January 13 minutes? If not, can we get a motion to approve them as amended?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Councilwoman Villarreal moved to approve those minutes as amended, and Councilor Vio-Koppler has seconded that motion. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vihil-Coppler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Betha,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. Madam Clerk, I think item 9, could you introduce that to us?
Absolutely. Item 9 is a department update on Phase 1A for the Arroyo Chamizo Crossing study. Director Regina Wheeler is available for the presentation, and this is an information-only item.
Thank you. Director Wheeler, you have the Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the governing body. Good evening. There are a number of other people here to support this presentation as well. We have Leroy Pacheco is here. He's working, he's come back to help us at the City and Our Roads team to work on this project and others. And we also have the consultants from WSP available. And I'll make some introductory remarks, and then Leroy will share some more technical details. We just wanted to come to governing body and provide an update on this really important project that has really citywide and regional impacts on transportation alternatives, safety, quality of life in our city. It's the Arroyo de los Chamizos Crossing project. The phase we've just completed is called the Phase 1A evaluation of alternatives. It involved significant public engagement as well as engineering assessment of alternatives for crossing this arroyo and really improving transportation in our city. I'll just give you some high level elements. This project is funded for the next phase as well, which will be a more detailed analysis of the selected option. And so we're funded through Phase 1B. You can see in the document that was provided for this item, the steps in the project. So that'll get us about to the point of getting ready to do an actual design. We do have some funding for moving into the design phase. $4 million of impact fees approved by the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. So the impact fees of $4 million are sort of allocated to the project. And then we are also executing the project in a very systematic way such that it will be eligible for federal funding for the construction as well. And we're pursuing that federal funding as well. So we're kind of in the beginning stages. We wanted to give you an update before we move to the next part and get any feedback and comments. And then and we are lining up for the long-term finish line of being able to construct. And so unless you have questions for me, I wanted to give the floor to Leroy Pacheco and let him provide you a little bit more information about what has occurred and what will happen next.
Mr. Pacheco, are you able to unmute yourself? Or is he in the attendee room?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good to almost see you.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn my face on, but I'd be happy to do it. But anyway, I'm good. I'm just an L. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you, Regina. I think most of the time we want to spend answering questions, but just briefly, it's good to know where we're at. The first exhibit shows that we're in the very beginning phases of and completed Phase A of the public involvement process. We are, as Regina said, following federal protocols because depending on what outcome is, we're hoping to be eligible for federal or state funding as we move along by following those procedures. The project study area is about a 1 square mile area between Rodeo and Cerrillos Road, bounded by Zaffarano and Avenida Las Campanas. And so we're looking at improving the connectivity using, additional local roadways is sort of what we're believing for pedestrians, bicyclists, moving vehicles. There's currently one emergency access route only across the Arroyo, approximately in this location, but it's only accessible by our fire department. So that's the project study area. In addition to the build alternative, we will be closely examining the no build. So as we move forward, the not building it impact over our study area will also be analyzed and looked at. So you'll be able to compare building versus not building. So that's the project study area. We looked at in the Phase A study 4 alternatives, highly well-attended public meeting, over 150 attendees came to the convention center. And I don't know if you can see the next exhibit, Joseph. The 4 alternatives, alternative A was kind of looking at connecting through Avenida Las Americas, getting you to that signal. The alternative B, which is the preferred alternative that we're looking forward and moving forward, is getting to the Richards signal. And alternative C was getting us to the Camino Consuelo signal. The environmental planning team, Bohannon Houston, has decades and decades of work with the city and experience in doing these types of studies well. They were the environmental engineer for the for the Acequia underpass at St. Francis and Cerrillos. And WSP team was really the Lewis Berger group, which was bought out by WSP. So the people that are working on the community's behalf are well experienced in this type of endeavor. And I think at this point, I'm assuming Denise and Jim are on the call, but we thought we'd now just present this and ask the counselors, answer counselor questions.
Thank you. I think just laying it out like that is helpful, and then we'll see where the members of the governing body want to raise questions. If you have a question, please just either raise your blue hand, or I can see most people's faces. If you have a question, I'll call on you as I see you raise a hand. Okay. People are feeling like they read the report and they're pretty well informed. Regina, when will we hear back again? What's the next check-in point from your point? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Villal-Copper, you do have your hand up. My apologies. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I was a little late on that. I wasn't sure if we were done forever or it was, I didn't know. But I just want to just say that even more than this, you might have noted in the first slide, there was a meeting that Councilor Harris and I had. We hosted at the Genevieve Chavez Center. That was well attended as well. And so, and we had been attending, I know he attended several, we attended together, and then I attended one separately. So we had met with the HOA Association across from the rodeo grounds, who seemed to be the association that was most concerned. And so through listening to them, we were able to make some suggestions to John Romero at the time, and I've certainly made them to Regina and Leroy, so that we can, make sure that those remedies are still available to make that association. They have great points, but to smooth this over, so to speak. One of them did involve smoothing the road, but so not everybody was pleased about what seems to be the best option, but it clearly is generally accepted by most of the people that we've talked to in these groups. So I know, I'll just sort of carry the torch for former Councilor Harris. He was very, very, you may recall, some of you, adamant about getting this project back on, and we still talk about it, And Councilor Cassett Sanchez was on the call the other day. We had some really good discussion about all of this and what's transpired. So I think I'm hopeful that we can see this to fruition. I think it's a good next step for the city in terms of traffic control. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Rivera, your hand is up as well. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leroy, are your alternatives based on recommendations? So is alternative A the one you're seeking to push the most, or are they just, those different options that we might have?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, the alternatives needed to connect from the rodeo road signal at Richards. And so you had to look at the existing network and Avenida Las Americas, Richards Avenue, and Camino Consuelo, and the existing road network basically defined what, we had to find. So the exact connection across the Arroyo, which is the project getting a roadway across the Arroyo, doesn't technically exist yet, but the end point and the beginning point do. So those determined how we came up with phase A, alternative A, alternative B, and alternative C. So the end point and the beginning point drove the connections we looked at, if I understand your question right.
But you're not really making a recommendation as to which alternative is the best?
The technical analysis of each of those connections based on neighborhoods, based on the topography, based on technical factors, plus the public involvement response of the proposed discussed connections are what pushes the preferred alternative forward. And through the first process, the alternative we're currently looking at is alternative connection B, alternative B, and that so it's a mix of the technical criteria that are driving it plus public response.
Okay, and then so I was the fire chief when we negotiated the emergency crossing, and the biggest sticking point in getting that through was the negotiation with Game and Fish, which is just to the, I guess, south of Seringo Road. Do they still own that entire piece of property? And have we had any discussions with them to this point?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, there's so much that's changed in the last year, so I'd hate to be, but I know that they are mentioned as a stakeholder in the Phase A report. And if you'd like, I can get more detail in terms of the interaction, but at a preliminary phase, I know they're aware of this through press and project connection, but I don't know the level of detail, given that it's still such a preliminary evaluation as to what level of discussion we've had about the property. But certainly as it moves forward, all property owners that are impacted would be, closely worked with.
Okay. Thank you, Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Others who have questions on this matter? I was thinking back, this isn't a question, but it falls into the same category as Councillor Vihel-Koppler reminiscing about actual in-person convenings. I remember at the convention center, the in-person convening that happened with the briefing on these options. The place was packed, and it was right around the time that COVID was striking. And I remember we were all standing there going, yeah, is it safe? Should we wear a mask? Should we be here at all? It was very well attended. It was very well, the discussion was live and very, very thoughtful back in the days when you could have those things in person. And I really appreciate seeing this briefing tonight as a another round of update, and please keep us posted on the progress because it does have a great deal of interest. I know Councillor Harris had always wanted to move this forward as a priority. It has significant transportation connection benefits and some impact. So keeping the community involved, keeping people briefed, and then keeping the governing body fully informed is really a service that you're doing to us with this presentation tonight. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councilors.
If there are no other questions on the presentation, Madam Clerk, could you take us to the next item, please?
Absolutely, Mayor. The next item is a request for approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Santa Fe Public Schools. There's no financial responsibility, volunteer station agreement for the foster grandparent program with Santa Fe Public Schools. And I believe Anya Alred is available for discussion.
Let's see, give us the number on that, please.
Oh, I apologize, 11A.
Okay, 11A, discussion action item, and
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve that item. Is there a
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself from this agenda item.
Yes, Councilor Garcia, you had identified that in an email to me, and I promised you we'd give you a chance to speak up before we took it up. You are very, very conscientious to bring that up, and you should just, I guess, take yourself out, and we'll let you. Joe will let you back in after we've taken up this item. But thank you for speaking up.
I'm on it.
Second.
Councilor Garcia. So as Councilor Garcia recuses himself, Councilor Mayorworth, do you want to make that motion again?
Sure, Mayor, I move to approve item 11A.
Second.
Councilor Rivera seconded that motion. Are there questions or discussion on the item? Just raise your hand and I'll see if I see you. I don't see any hands. If there is no question, discussion, could the clerk please call the roll on this item and we'll take a vote.
Absolutely. Councilor Romero-Worth,
Yes.
Councilor Vigil-Koppler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Betha,
Yes.
Councilor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilor Lindell,
There she is.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Councilor Rivera,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
All right, the motion has been approved.
Thank you. And Joe, if you can signal Councilor Garcia that he's welcome to rejoin us and help him get back into the room before we move forward.
Yes, sir. I will text him right now.
Thank you. Let's see how quickly he can walk back into the room.
I sent him the text.
Make sure he doesn't get accidentally parked in the attendee room, however.
Yeah, I'm watching for him on that.
Thank you.
There he is.
Welcome back, Councilor. Welcome back, Councilor Garcia. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Could the clerk please take us to the next item?
Absolutely, absolutely, sorry. Item 11B is request to publish notice of public hearing on February 24th, 2021. It's consideration of bill number 2021-1, an ordinance approving global management performance contract with Delca Energy Solutions LLC, subject to City Council approval of a separate financing transaction to finance the cost of the global management performance contract.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second,
Counselor Romero-Worth moved to approve that, and Counselor Lindell has seconded that. Is there discussion of the motion? Seeing no hands, could the clerk call the roll on that motion?
Absolutely. Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero-Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coupler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
And the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Absolutely. The next item is 11C, request to publish notice of public hearing on February 24th, 2021. Consideration of Bill number 2021-2, an ordinance accepting investment grade audit report and approving energy savings performance contract with Euro Energy Services LLC, subject to City Council approval of a separate financing transaction to finance the cost of the energy savings performance contract.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second,
Counselor Bill-Copper moved to approve, and Counselor Lindell seconded that motion. Is there discussion? If not, could the clerk please call the roll?
Absolutely. Counselor Romero-Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coupler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. And the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Request to publish notice of public hearing on February 24th, 2021, consideration of bill number 2021-3, an ordinance approving lease purchase agreement and escrow agreement with the Sterling National Bank for the purpose of financing the installation of energy efficiency measures in city facilities pursuant to the energy savings performance contract with Euro Energy Savings LLC in the global management performance contract with Delca Energy Solutions.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
Second,
Counselor Vijo-Copper moved to approve this, and Counselor Lindell seconded it. Is there discussion? If not, could you call the roll, please, Madam Clerk?
Absolutely. Counselor Vijo Coupler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero-Worth,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes,
Motion has been approved.
thank you. And if you could introduce item 12.
Yes, item number 12 is matters from the city manager.
City Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the governing body. Couple quick updates. We'll start with our COVID report. I wanted to, before we dive into the report as attached in the agenda, acknowledge the state numbers come out, as we know, every 2 weeks. So today, the numbers came out for the state. Santa Fe County has seen a decrease of 29%. Our positivity rate is now down to about 6%. As you'll recall, 5% gets us to yellow. So we are trending in the right direction. A lot of work yet still to be done. So you'll see, as you'll see from the report that's included in your packet, that tracks, our numbers have decreased. So that tracks with what we're seeing in the state's numbers. Again, the number of calls that the police department responded to has gone down The fire department noted in our last report, they had over 90 calls. This reporting period was 61 calls, and 18 were confirmed to be COVID positive. So overall, we're seeing a much decreased load, which is really important. It means the work needs to continue. We will also, you'll also note the number of cases within the city went down. The report that I sent you on Friday, remember we're on different reporting timeframes. We only had 2 new cases within the city. So again, really important controls. Now is when we keep it. We got to keep the actions going because it's showing that they're working. So to that end, the police department announced today Operation Health and Safety for the month of February. They've got a dedicated team working to focus on some of the areas. One of the conversations we had last council meeting was around repeated calls for service, how we're tracking that. So they're going to focus on repeated calls, continued enforcement, and the like there. And lastly, I just wanted to say, we are working very closely with DOH around vaccinations. We've offered the convention center, we've offered any city facility that we can when they are ready to stand up additional vaccination clinics, opportunities. For now, understanding the deep frustrations that everyone's experiencing with the supply and demand. The focus is again on having folks make sure they're registered with the state website and sticking with the guidelines as they've laid out. So we are working very closely. Our team has weekly meetings with them, working with the partners so that when we do get more vaccine, we are ready to get as many shots in arms as possible. So that's the report on the COVID side. The team is all here if there are additional questions. And then the only other non-COVID item I want to note is you did also receive from me our November GRT report. So again, we're always on a 2-month delay, but those are in your inbox. So with that, it looks like I will stand for questions.
I see hands from Councilor Maraworth and Councilor Cassett Sanchez at the moment, so let's go with that sequence. Councilor Maraworth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to be clear, and City Manager, you can probably validate this, that we, as the city, are in kind of a supportive role, waiting for the federal government and the state to provide us with whatever it is they need, and that we are not in the business of actually giving shots. That's not going to be our role. We are going to stand by to provide space and whatever else they need in order to give those shots, but we won't actually, as a city team, be doing that. Am I correct in that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Romero-Worth, at this point, that is correct. We are working with them. We've offered our fire department, they can take over some of the testing to free up some of the DOH staff to then do vaccinations. So it's an evolving, but the role of the city does not have a role specifically in vaccinations.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor. That's all I had.
Councilor Cassett Sanchez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. While we're on the topic of vaccines and discussing, looking at city facilities, one thing that I really want to make sure that we consider is parts of town that have experienced higher levels of COVID, as well as potentially have more challenges and more barriers in terms of getting to a vaccination site. So as we are looking at where we as a city are assisting with setting up those vaccination sites, I want to make sure that we're focusing on 87507 and 87505. I understand that there is a lot of benefits in terms of the design of the convention center, but really when we're thinking about the population that is going to be one, we've seen higher COVID numbers, and two, we're experiencing a lot of barriers. I really want to make sure that we are exploring our opportunities over on this part of town. So as we continue that planning and how we are partnering with the state, that's something obviously very important to me as somebody who represents both of those zip codes, as well as I know District 3 will also be included there. I'm really grateful to hear about the Operation Health and Safety and taking in the feedback from last time about how we are looking at areas that have repeated calls. So I do appreciate that. I'm kind of confused about the difference when I'm looking at the list of the COVID info versus COVID mask, because there's some where the description sounds like a COVID mask to me, but it's listed in COVID info. And so is it, volume of people involved? Is it, gathering of people? There was one specifically that talks about reported 20 people near office with no masks under COVID info as opposed to a COVID mask. So I was curious, maybe if Chief Padilla could speak a little bit to how those get delineated.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Casas Sanchez, yes, that should be labeled as a COVID mass call, but that call was called into the Regional Emergency Communications Center, or the RECC Center. So it's a dispatcher or call taker on the county side that labeled that call as is. It's too hard now for us to go retroactively back and change it up at this point. But yes, you could see it going either way, but yes, it should have been categorized under a COVID mask violation or complaint.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something. So I appreciate that that was just a little bit of a mess up there. And then I noticed in our citations, so for example, it says that we have 14 citations issued, 9 citations, and 5 warning citations. Does that mean that those 5 warning citations were actually recorded? There's names that are recorded there. Or was it just that there was 5 people that they said this is a warning? And if that's the case, then why weren't those 20 added to like a warning citation? Again, just trying to understand how these things are categorized and tracked within PD.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Casas Sanchez, yes, these 14 citations are all written or documented where names are attached to them. So there's many, I couldn't even count how many verbal citations, verbal warnings have been given by officers when they've encountered a group of children playing basketball at a location, someone walking a dog, someone out and about, and they've encountered someone and reminded them of the COVID and wearing a face covering and issued or given them a free face covering with the, with the face coverings that the officers do carry with them. But these are actual citations where you can link names to them.
Okay, all right. So given our ordinance where we're supposed to have a warning first, why would we opt to not do the warning citations for most of those situations?
Now, for most of those situations, it was officer discretion where there was possibly confusion the way it was going to be going. We can't necessarily just take away an officer's discretion the way they're going to approach every situation. These citations, some people have just been adamant that they're not going to appear in court. They're not going to pay the fine. They've moved all the way up to the full citation, or it's a second offense that someone has received a first warning, which was a written warning per the ordinance. And then they've encountered that same person a second go round. So they've issued them the full citation where the person has the option of appearing in court or paying the $50 fine.
Thank you. Again, I'll be really eager to see, and with our COVID reports through the month of February, reporting on what is going on with Operation Health and Safety. I would appreciate to see what's happening there. It was really helpful that you guys included the repeat calls, so I appreciate that as well. Is Kyle Mason here perchance? No. Okay.
I'm
sorry.
I don't see
Mr. Mayor, Kyle is not, but if there's a question about the PPE, I may be able to answer.
Yeah, I was just curious because we have some of these large numbers that they're not distributed, and I just would like to learn a little bit more about what triggers a distribution of the PPE. And how, we have a lot in reserve and this is only for city staff, correct? I believe we had this conversation last time, or does it get distributed to the
Mr.
public?
Mayor, Councilor Cassett Sanchez, my understanding from Kyle is that this is primarily for city staff, but also for organizations doing large food distribution, such as Food Depot, or serving seniors, serving in-person folks in need. And the way that it works is that, yes, there is a large reserve. Kyle sends out communications to partners, letting them know that as new supplies become available, and partners know to call him to request distribute materials, and that includes the departments as well. So department directors will contact him on a regular basis to let him know what their staff needs in terms of the PPE.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. I appreciate getting a little bit more information there. Those were all my questions. Again, just really considering looking at that vaccination strategy and focusing on 87, 505, and 507, as well as, we're in one of those weird periods where as numbers go down, so does laxity, or maybe laxity increases. People just stop. They start to feel kind of a false sense of security, and we're still in this risk period. And so I really want to make sure that even though our numbers are going down, which is great, hopefully we'll get to that yellow, that we are really staying on top of making sure that people are being responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera, you have the floor.
Thank you. I don't know if it's Kira or maybe Chief Babcock. Do we know who's providing vaccines at Santa Fe High School?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, that is the Department of Health.
All right, so really, Christus is staying focused on providing vaccines in their own facility, as well as probably Presbyterian, La Familia, the pharmacies as well. Chief Babcock, if we were called upon to assist in giving vaccines, I know we have the training to do it, but would we be available to do it if the city could provide a facility?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, we absolutely are currently ready for that challenge. Not even a challenge, we're standing by. We just need to go ahead, as City Manager LaPan Hill stated. We've been having these weekly meetings. Director Ochoa and the fire department are just waiting for that go ahead. If we are able to take over testing, then the state's staff could do vaccinations, but if they do call upon the fire department, we are readily available.
All right, that's great news, and I'm glad you're readily available to do that. And I agree with Councilwoman Cassett Sanchez that I think the 87507 area code should be one of the priorities. I don't think not everyone here has access to transportation, and I know some of these appointments and times that they call people are very time sensitive. So if we could look at, if called upon, to really prioritize either usage of the South Side Library or somewhere on this side of town to be able to help people out, since we've been the highest, one of the highest in zip codes as far as contracting the virus. I think that would be helpful, but thank you for that answer. Ms. Ochoa, you said something about the supplies, and you said if directors or staff call for these supplies, they would be made available. What if are we making these available to people outside of the city?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, outside of city staff, yes, we are. So again, all the community partners, for example, in the Connect network, all the nonprofits that serve, some of the most in need populations, are aware that they can contact Office of Emergency Management, and they have done so. And we deliver supplies to them as they ask for them. And Kyle is in a regular habit of letting them know, as I mentioned, when we get new supplies in, and also just reminding them that they can always call upon us for those supplies.
Right, because it doesn't look like the numbers have changed very much since our last meeting. So
yeah.
Just wondering if people aren't, maybe they have their own supplies or they don't need the ones that we have. But I'd hate to get to the point where we're so overstocked that things go to waste or expire.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rivera, yes, that's an issue that we're looking at, just making sure we're getting those regular communications out. But from what Kyle said, a lot of entities have other sources for the PPE, and so that may be why we're not seeing a lot of movement. But I think it is important, I agree, to make sure everyone knows that we have those supplies and that we can get them.
Yeah, and I would just keep an eye on it. Like I said, I don't want to get us to the point where we have so much that next time it's needed in a year or two that it's not usable because it's all gone bad. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilwoman Villarreal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to staff for this additional information. It appears this is like an update from a different time period from the last report. Is that correct? It's updated. It's most current, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Villarreal, that's correct. This is now because we're reporting at every council meeting. It's the reporting, just the intervening. So the first one was a much longer period, and it'll just be the 2 weeks.
Got it. Okay, so what I didn't understand was the fire department section. It seems like it was the same information that was given to us the last time. The numbers were the same, including the transfers to the cities that we did. So I'm just curious, was this added on? I don't know if Chief, is the chief on still?
Yes.
Big black box here.
Okay, can you just let me know if this is new information or is this from the last report but added numbers? How did you all report this?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Villarreal, these numbers are actually all different. The last report was 91 calls of COVID responses of suspected or positive cases. We've gone from 93, excuse me, I said 91. We've gone from 93 to 61 cases. Of those 61 cases, the dedicated ambulance for COVID response responded to 24 of those 61 cases, with 18 being positive. So it's definitely different from the last report. And then these cities, they might see similar because those are these are last, and I'm just going off memory, so I might be off on number 2. Last report, we had 23 transports from the airport. This time we've had 10. And the cities might seem familiar just because they're coming from the same destination.
That's interesting. Okay, well, thanks for the clarity. I guess I was just thinking, how is it that each time we have someone from Tohatchi, from Gallup, which is a very small town, Lake Arthur, New Mexico. So does that mean that there was another person that got transferred to Lake Arthur?
That is correct.
Huh.
Yeah, that is correct, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Villarreal. So any of these cities that you're seeing where they came from, it's just another patient from that same vicinity. So whatever that transport service is, the flight crew brings them from that destination to the city of Santa Fe. So they could be, like you said, Lake Arthur or Gallup or Tohatchi. It's a different patient from the last report from 2 weeks ago.
Okay, that's good to know. And very rare. I mean, Lake Arthur is a very small town. So the fact that we had 2 folks, or I don't know how many folks were transferred there, but okay, thanks for the clarity. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks for the update, everybody, and for the questions. I just add one quick update. I spent some time with Lillian Montoya from Christus this afternoon, and I think the message from her was very clear, which was right now, supply of vaccines as well as syringes is underperforming compared to demand. And her request was be patient. Unfortunately, as people want to get vaccinated and we want them to get vaccinated, there's a certain degree of frustration, which we all understand. Her request was please be patient. Don't call the hospital. And unfortunately, people tend to get angry and take it out on the folks answering the phone. They're doing the best they can. President Biden took office and opened up the medicine cabinet, and the cabinet was empty. So they're having to build supply. Their president has invoked the Defense Production Act to get more vaccines and more syringes into the pipeline, but the pipeline has to be built. And so, as Lillian pointed out, there are a number of different queues that people can get lined up into, whether it is Christus or Prez or La Familia, or potentially through a pharmacy or a supermarket. All of these are different queues. They're following the protocol of 1A, 1B, 1C. It will get better, but we all need to take our turn. There also are some interesting complexities around the Pfizer vaccine. Once you open you add the reagent to activate it, you only have 6 hours to get it into somebody's arm. So they're trying not to waste a single dose. So we'll be continuing to do updates. If you have questions that you'd like addressed, if you're listening as a member of the city, you're a resident, please send your questions in. We'll try to get answers for you. I think the city really does want to be responsive for the ability to give better information, better communication, and updates. As we get information, we want to pass it on to everybody who is interested in, concerned about, and eager to get vaccinations. It really has to get into people's arms to do what we want done. So thank you for the update and for the questions, everybody. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, could you take us to the next item, please?
Absolutely. The next item is matters from the city attorney. There is an executive session on this agenda in accordance with the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, Part H7, Attorney-Client Privilege Discussion regarding threatened and pending litigation in which the city of Santa Fe is a party, including a quarterly litigation update and discussion of a proposed amendment to the settlement agreement between the city of Santa Fe, Century Bank, Art Yard Condominium Association, and the Santa Fe Rail Yard Community Corporation, which previously dismissed case D-101-CV-2016-01773.
Madam City Attorney, do you want to add to that?
Councilors, I just recommend that a motion is made to go into executive session for the caption as described by the city clerk.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera, do you have a motion for us?
I make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss the item listed on the agenda as recommended by the city attorney.
Second.
And there is a second from Councilor Romero Worth. If there is there discussion? If not, could the clerk call the roll on the motion?
Absolutely. Councilwoman Villarreal.
Yes.
Councilor Beta.
Yes.
Councilor Cassett Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilor Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Lindell.
Yes.
Councilor Rivera.
Yes.
Councilor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Councilor Vigil Koppler.
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. All right, and that's with that having been voted, let's all convene in the leave this room. We'll return after the executive session and take up the remainder of the agenda for the afternoon before going into the evening session. Thanks, everybody.
Sig,
Yes.
thank you for the scarf. I just, I said, hey, I wonder what's in that bag over there. And I looked and I was like, oh my gosh. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Light it up, Joe.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm glad you got it.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I'm watching the attendee room just to make sure who's coming in and whatnot. So,
Thank you.
yep.
I think we need a Counselor Abeta.
Just let him in, Mayor.
Oh, there we go. All right, everybody's present and accounted for. So, Counselor Rivera, would you be inclined to make a motion?
Trying to make a motion that we return from executive session, stating for the record that discussion was limited to those items listed on the agenda as recommended by the city attorney.
Second.
Counselor Lindell seconded Counselor Rivera's motion. Is there discussion? If the clerk would call the roll on the motion then.
Absolutely, Mayor. Counselor Beta,
Yes.
Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell,
Counselor Lindell?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coupler,
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal,
Yes.
and Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Very good, thank you. There is an executive session action item, 14A, if you would introduce that to us.
Yes, Mayor. Request for approval of an amended settlement agreement between the City of Santa Fe, Century Bank, Art Yard Condominium Association, and the Santa Fe Rail Yard Community Corporation, removing certain restrictions on Rail Yard Parcel B1 in exchange for a parking agreement with the city and an amended lease agreement with the Santa Fe Rail Yard Community Corporation.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Merriworth and a second from Counselor Abeta. Discussion of the motion is appropriate at this time.
And Mayor Weber, I just forwarded the invite to Andrea. She didn't have it, so she'll be joining us here shortly.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Brown is with us to answer any questions if people have them. If there is no discussion, no questions at this time, could the clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Absolutely. Counselor Cassett Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Garcia?
Yes.
Counselor Lindell?
Yes.
Counselor Rivera?
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth?
Yes.
Counselor Vijo Coupler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Counselor Abeta?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
I vote yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Ms. Salazar. Appreciate you. I believe the item number 15 is matters from the city clerk. Madam Clerk, do you have any matters for us?
Yes, Mayor, I do have a few just very quick updates. I just wanted to note that on the agenda, if there's any feedback, I did start adding the committee review schedule. So just wanted to note that and hope that that is a value, at least for the public in terms of transparency, as well as bolding the public hearing notices. I think that those are valuable areas of the agenda for the public to participate in. And then I just wanted to alert the council that the efforts of Jesse and Jeff from our legislative team and their work with PrimeGov now allow us to have our agendas translated into Spanish. So there is a toggle feature now, which is excellent, and really applaud them for their efforts and all of their work in PrimeGov. It's been really helpful. We also have the capability for the subtitles to be translated into a different language as well. So I just think those are really great efforts. I wanted to note that. And then just lastly, Mayor, I did want to note that the Santa Fe Reporter put out 25 things to love about Santa Fe, and coming in at number 11 was the ability to attend a city council meeting in your PJs. So I thought that was really a nice nod to city. And of course, in a previous role, Joe and I worked very hard to get city council meetings up and running. And also Joe has done a phenomenal job continuing that and getting many other city committee meetings into a virtual model. Also just noting the libraries did come in on that list as well at number 20 for their library services and curbside services. So that's all I have for today. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 16, communications from the governing body. I will just go around and take everybody, give everybody the floor one person at a time. And Councilor Vihel-Coppler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to read into the record a resolution I'll be bringing forth. A resolution requiring governing body approval prior to the public offering of any city-owned land or property for sale. The next item that I want to speak about is to give a big thanks to the League of Women Voters who organized a virtual Women's March. And I was very happy to be a presenter on that. And it was very creative and a lot of really good speakers, and our governor was absolutely wonderful. Our newly appointed Secretary of the Interior and representatives. And I mean, there was just an abundance of information, and they even had clips of women walking and saying things. It was just really creative. And so it's what we could do with the times today. But there were a lot of very supportive people on that virtual walk, and it was very well done. So big thanks to the League of Women Voters and Katie Christensen who put that together. The next thing I want to bring up is I've had a lot of you probably saw a letter to the editor today in the Santa Fe New Mexican. And then I've had a lot of calls, messages about the Genevieve Chavez Center and its lack of swim pool lane openings. And I've learned that the city has all of the PPE and more ready at the call to begin using for opening more lanes. Which would still be in compliance with the governor's order, and 50-meter poles such as the one that we have at Genevieve Chavez Center that are all across the state. Those poles are open with more lanes available, and those other cities who have ice rinks, not many, but they are open with 10 people. So I'm just, these complaints and comments from citizens, residents who use the facility, and certainly people in our District 4 who regularly use it because it is close by, are getting very, very impatient, and they know that there could be more use of it that are within the governor's orders, and yet we don't do it. So I'm beginning to, I mean, I don't have any response for them because I certainly believe that we could do better, we could do more and still be in compliance. So I'd like to hear from the city manager, I guess, about it again.
I will take your concern. We've been working very closely with the rec team and our legal team to make sure we're in compliance. So we'll continue to look and see. We've been operating within the rules, but understand the deep interest and the deep frustrations. There are more people who want to utilize our spaces than we have spaces for. But I can get back to you with more specifics about what is holding us back or creating restrictions that is causing the frustration. So I can follow back up with you.
Well, I thank you for that. I want to say that there is room for more participation. It's not welcoming the whole swim world, but there is room for more participation in the pool. And I have talked to some recreation staff. I mean, they're ready to go. They're very aware of the restrictions and feel like they can comply. And but yet I'm sure they get beat up by the same people who are very upset. And but they can't give any answers, you know, as far as other than we're in compliance, but we do have room to be more in compliance. We have room for more people. And I really have looked at this, and I don't really see that we can't open more lanes. And we have the staff there. Sometimes there's more staff there than public. So and we have we do have the protective equipment and the sanitizing stuff, and I mean, we have everything. And so I hope that you can get back to me, and I'm hoping for a better solution than what we have now. Thank you.
Will do.
Councilor Lindell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of items to introduce. An ordinance amending section 11-14.5 SFCC 1987 to dedicate half of the proceeds from any sale or lease of city-owned land and buildings to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Secondly, a resolution urging the New Mexico legislature to hold New Mexico school districts and charter schools harmless for decreased enrollment in the 2021 school year as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and maintain funding at 2019-2020 levels. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Garcia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess in regards to our Madam Clerk's comments earlier that, you know, we made the reporters list for attending council meetings in your PJs. I wonder if that applies to councilors, or if any of our councilors are potentially practicing the new practice of business up top, PJs down below. I'll let you all guess if I'm wearing suit pants below or PJs or whatever it may be. But no major updates. Oh, I do want to give a quick birthday shout out to my pops. Clarence Garcia, was his birthday last week, and he got what I would consider a great birthday gift in the sense that he will be getting his COVID vaccine this coming weekend at the VA hospital. So that's super exciting. Other than that, no further updates, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mayorworth, you have the Zoom.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't believe I have anything tonight, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Casa Sanchez, you have the Zoom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Aaron, quick question. Jesse didn't include a resolution I'm introducing on the resolution sheet. Can I still introduce?
I think if you can make the verbal description, yes. You have
Perfect.
the caption. Need it?
Yes. I am introducing a resolution along with Councilwoman Villarreal, supporting legislation at the New Mexico legislature to adopt a paid sick leave act that allows employees to accrue and use paid sick leave. And then I also want to sign on as a co-sponsor for the ordinance that Councilor Lindell introduced to dedicate half the sales from any sale or lease of city-owned land to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I wanted to give a thank you to the library. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for mentioning that they had been in the reporter. We recently utilized a program for kiddos where you can go online and fill out a form that you can give your kids' age and their interests, and then they just create a bundle of books for you that you can go and pick up at the library. And so we just did this yesterday and got 10 brand new books, and Oliver and I spent about 2 hours just sitting on the couch reading books yesterday, which is a really nice change for me than chasing him around my house. So thank you very much to the library for both giving me a little bit of a rest as well as providing that service to our kids in our community. And then the library is also doing another really fun program. They're doing I think it's called the Big Read, where people across the nation are reading the same book. I'm forgetting the title of the book, but my book club is going to be participating. So everybody look that up. That's another fun program that they're doing. And I just really appreciate all the ways that the library is still working to build community and entertainment and knowledge and learning during this challenging time. So I really wanted to make sure that I gave them some recognition and let other people know to check them out. Councilor Garcia's point, yes, absolutely. Definitely the new Zoom business casual over here. I'm wearing some really lovely, fluffy purple socks that there's no way I could ever wear in council chambers. So yeah, everybody enjoy council in your PJs. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villarreal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for including me in that for the paid sick leave legislation. Also, I'll be co-sponsoring Councilwoman Behill Coppler's resolution requiring governing body approval prior to the public offering of any city-owned land or property for sale. I'd like to co-sponsor the resolution urging the New Mexico legislature to hold New Mexico school districts and charter schools harmless. I'd also like to co-sponsor what the mayor is introducing. I'll let him read that into the record. And wanted to just recognize some of our nonprofit partners that this time of year have their big fundraisers. One in particular that Councilwoman Lindell always supports and volunteers is the Food Depot's Super Bowl. And it's really sad that that's not happening this year. And that's a very large fundraiser for them. So there is a way to support them, and just wanted to let people know they do have what is called the halftime show. And you can support local restaurants as well by buying soup from specific restaurants that are part of this effort. And then a portion of the proceeds will go to the Food Depot. So you have until Sunday, January 31st, to be able to purchase soup. And so I encourage people out there to support the local restaurants that are supporting this effort, which will then again support the Food Depot, or you can go directly to Food Depot and support their efforts to reduce hunger in our community. And then the other event I just wanted to shout out, because I know a lot of partners are working on this fervently to get it going. It's called Tonic for the Times, and it's happening on January 30th, starting at 5:30. It's essentially a lot of different musical performers and people from not just nationally, but local singers and performers. And it's lifting up and recognizing all of our COVID caregivers, the folks that are on the front lines, healthcare workers, and they have various partners, but the funding will essentially help the most urgent needs related to COVID recovery. And so just wanted to let you know there's ways to donate and also enjoy great music, and there'll be a lot of local performers as well. So just wanted to give a shout out because they are putting a lot of effort into that. And also wanted to recognize the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County and the organizer Katie Christensen for putting on the virtual Women's March. They did it very last minute. The only reason why I knew about it is because of my organization, my other job with NewMexicoWomen.org. We were represented and did speak in that panel as Councilor Behill Coppler indicated. And there were, I think, a lot of people that didn't know about it. So for the short time period that they did try to make an effort, I commend them. And it's hard to get people to get on Zoom anyway on a weekend. So I appreciate their efforts and the topics that were covered, and some of the things that are important even at the state level and legislation that was important to recognize, and the work that's happening in New Mexico with nonprofits, the nonprofit sector, to support women and gender justice. So just wanted to thank them for that. That's all.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rivera, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to sign on as a co-sponsor to your resolution that you'll be reading, I assume, and then also sign on to Councilwoman Casa Sanchez's paid leave resolution that she just read into the record this evening. Other than that, I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Abeyta.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to Councilwoman Cassette Sanchez's resolution regarding paid sick leave also. I want to say thank you to Melissa McDonald with our Parks Department. I had brought an issue to her that constituents in District 3 had raised about a community garden, and she was extremely responsive. And I was just impressed with how quickly that issue got resolved and is going to get resolved. I also want to say thank you to our parks crews who have been out in District 3 the last couple of weeks, and it's been really cold, and they're out there in the no matter whether it's cold or hot, and so I'm very grateful to them, and so are the residents in District 3. And finally, happy birthday to Councilor Garcia's father. My father had a birthday last week, and you know, we don't get to keep our dads forever, so we need to make sure that we take care of them and take care of each other. So happy birthday to your father, Councilor Garcia. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. I think it's my turn. I do have a resolution I'm introducing supporting the designation of the first Monday in March as COVID-19 Memorial Day in remembrance of those who have lost their lives and in honor of those who continue to suffer from the impact of the virus, and urging residents to continue taking preventative measures to mitigate the spread of the virus. Quick update on a couple things on that front. Last week was a virtual summit for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We didn't have to fly anywhere. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to pay for hotel rooms or meals or anything. We just stayed home and had meetings virtually with mayors from all over the country. But I have to say, one of the highlights was a opportunity to hear President Biden speak, and he devoted a great deal of his time to COVID because it continues to take lives, it continues to transform our economy, it continues to hurt our businesses and have huge impacts on our community. And as you know, he's introduced a $1.9 trillion measure to try to actually support cities for the first time in 4 years. We would actually be getting from the White House support rather than being attacked. He focused on one point that came up earlier when the city manager was talking about the police department's enforcement of masks. President Biden said, if we all continue to wear our masks and pay attention to masking up, in the next month or two, 40,000 lives will be saved by that simple act of wearing a mask. And so as we introduce a resolution supporting the designation of the first Monday in March as COVID-19 Memorial Day, let's try to keep people safe. Let's try to end people being exposed to the spread of the coronavirus and keep people from catching it. We had a very, very robust conversation earlier about vaccinations. That is the light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, there's a frustration with the demand outstripping supply, but I know that our local hospitals and health providers are working hard to provide more clarity and more transparency about how the process will work. So please give them your patience and don't take your frustrations out on them. They're doing everything they possibly can to get vaccines into people's arms. While we're giving shout outs to people, let's give a shout out to our snow removal crews. Those folks are up at 4 a.m. getting into those rigs and clearing out the streets, keeping them safe, keeping them from icing up. A remarkable effort. I know I get emails and texts from Regina Wheeler documenting how many folks are reporting for duty and how early and what a great job they're doing. So we can't take any of their efforts for granted. It makes our lives easier. It makes our streets safer. They have to get up and do the hard work. So a great big thank you to them as well, while Councilor Abeta was talking about other crews and parks taking care of other pieces of our city infrastructure and the overall appearance of Santa Fe. Thank you, everybody, for the hard work as we get deeper into 2021 and hope we're turning the corner. Please shop local, keep our mom and pop stores alive. One last item, we're talking about things in front of the state legislature. Another thing that President Biden did was to have the United States rejoin the Paris Treaty. Climate change is an existential crisis in our world, in our planet. I took the opportunity to send 2 messages testifying on 2 energy bills that are in front of Senate committees, one involving community solar that the city of Santa Fe is fully in support of and on record in supporting. It is a major step toward the greening of our energy source and the greening of our economy, as well as a measure for community choice around how we get our energy. And I think as we worry about COVID and try to bend the curve, we also have to worry about sustainability and fight climate change. And this session of the legislature will be a critical time for New Mexico to continue the work of putting a new energy policy into place for our state. It is absolutely an essential building block of our future. So, quick report on that. Thank you, everybody. Madam Clerk, I think it's almost 7 o'clock, so apologies to those who have been waiting for the evening session. We're a little bit, almost an hour out of sync. So if you have been watching and listening, apologies for being an hour late, but we are ready to move on to the evening session. And I think we should begin with the petitions from the floor. Mr. Abeta, Joe Abeta, do we have some folks who wish to address the governing body?
Yes, sir, we do.
So
First up, go ahead.
How many, are there, I'm seeing a fairly small list.
2 of them, sir.
So let's offer everybody 2 minutes to speak to us, and you can keep the clock and bring them in.
Okay, here we go. First up is Catherine Sierra. And Catherine, you have the floor. Catherine, you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
A little soft if you can speak up. You are there and we hear you, but you need to be as loud as you can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Weber and City Councilors. My name is Catherine Shira, and I'm a resident of Santa Fe. I just have a brief comment prior to tomorrow's discussion of the contract with KDC Real Estate Sienda Partners for the Midtown campus. Whatever the disposition of the contract, I want to register my opposition to any role for Los Alamos National Laboratory at the campus. As members of the City Council may be aware, the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons entered into force last Friday, making nuclear weapons activities, including their production, stockpiling, use, and threatened use, illegal under international law. The threat of the use of nuclear weapons is an existential crisis on par with that of climate. I urge the members of the Council to embrace the important principles embodied by the UN Treaty and to reject any participation by the City of Santa Fe with entities engaged in the production of nuclear weapons, including in relation to the disposition of the Midtown campus. Thank you very much for your attention. Good evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mayor. And next up is Stephanie Beninato. And Ms. Beninato, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm not going to repeat everything that I put into my written public comments. I do agree with the speaker prior to me about nuclear production and not letting LANL have a place on the campus. I also hope there'll be a lot more public input, a public process, as opposed to the staff-driven process last time in selecting a developer. I do want to point out that there was a finding of discrimination against me by the city, on the part of the city of Santa Fe. I was told that we were in negotiation. Michael Prince, who is an assistant city attorney, was supposedly handling that. That was in November. I haven't heard anything back. I haven't ever actually heard anything directly from Mr. Prince. And I really think my requests for settlement are reasonable, and I'm not really sure. It's, you know, 2 steps, 2 things. It's not complicated, and I'd like to know why it's taking so long. I'm also wondering why the assistant city attorney says that the city attorney does not represent the H board in front of the council when there's an appeal. And my experience is that that is who presents the case to the council, and it is part of their statutory duties. It's not just at district court. And then I would agree with Councillor Vigil Coppler, Vigil Coppler, about the pool. And we've been hearing about, yeah, we'll get back to you, and this, that, and the other thing about, you know, opening other facilities. It's just always being put off. We could open Fort Marcy right now. And I really have to point out that the negligence in the maintenance of the facility at Chavez, it has major rust on the metal frames around the windows in the pool because the air heater, the heater for the air temperature in the pool has not worked since it was installed in May. It was really lackadaisical, you know, let's put it off, we'll get around to it kind of approach. And it was only in October that they put in a temporary heater, and it took, 3.5, 4 months to get a PO to go forward to get it fixed. Meanwhile, the condensation now has ruined the metal around these window frames, and it's going to cost really tens of thousands of dollars, and there's no reason to do that. The city could also open Chavez on Sundays, giving more opportunity. It used to be opened on Sundays. It used to be open from 5:30 to 8:30. Certainly one additional session a day could happen. And I really think that your lobbyist should be over asking the governor to allow 1 person per lane. These lanes are at least 6 feet wide. It's probably the safest environment you can be in because it's large, it's big, it has high ceilings, and the chlorine is basically killing all the viral germs. So I'm urging that you do something about getting more recreational facilities open immediately. I believe that it has to do with the mayor and the city manager as opposed to rec or anything
that's time.
All right, thank you, Joe. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Joe, is there somebody else there, I believe?
No, sir. That completes our petitions from the floor tonight.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Mayor, the next item on the agenda is appointments. We do have 1 appointment to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board. The appointment is Valeria Ramirez. She's a Santa Fe High School student, and it's a reappointment for a term ending in December of 2022.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I'm not sure who was there first. I apologize. I got Councilwoman Villarreal's second, but I wasn't sure who made the first motion.
Councillor Vigil Coppler and I were breaking the ribbon at the same time. I'll let her have it.
Councilor Vigil Coppler made the motion in a dead heat, and Councilwoman Villarreal was seconding the motion. Is there discussion about this candidate, this appointment? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Absolutely, Mayor. Councillor Garcia?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell?
Yes.
Councillor Rivera?
Yes.
Councillor Romero Worth?
Yes.
Councillor Vigil Coppler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Villarreal?
Yes.
Councillor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councillor Cassett Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Weber?
Yes.
Motion has been approved.
Thank you. Unless I'm mistaken, there are no public hearings on the agenda tonight. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct, Mayor.
In which case, item 21 on the agenda is adjourned. Meeting is adjourned.